Tara.
I'm Ryan.
We love Disney movies.
So we decided to watch them all, from Snow White
to Frozen 2 and beyond. Each episode will watch a different Walt Disney Animated Studios film and tell you all about it.
Did we like it? Does it hold up? Who's our favorite hero?
Or villain.
We'll give you history and fun facts about each movie.
And sometimes we'll invite our friends to watch along with us.
So put on your tiara
or your evil crown
and join us on our adventure.
This is Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries. Hello, listeners. We are back, and we have some very special guests. And not only are they special guests, but they are in-person guests. They are first in-person guests, and they are very close and near and dear to Ryan and I. So, Ryan, would you like to introduce them?
Yes, please say hello to my nephews. First up, Parker, say hello.
Hi, I'm Parker.
And Jack, say hello.
Hi, I'm Jack.
And they are youths. They are way too young, and I don't like it.
Getting older by the minute.
So we are home for Thanksgiving. This is going to come out way after Thanksgiving, but we're just putting that out there. We're also it may sound a little funny, we're running this on 2 microphones with 4 people, kind of all around a sofa, so we're going to see how this goes. But it turned out that we were recording the Chicken Little around the time we were going to be home seeing my family. And of course, I went, well, we have to try and record this with my nephews. Because I know, Parker, has a huge affinity for this film.
Yes.
Jack, I'm assuming you like it too since you agreed to do this as well.
Yeah.
They can't see you give a thumbs up, Jack. Just so
I know.
It's a podcast. So, Parker, you were 2. This movie came out in 2005.
Oh my gosh, that makes me feel so old.
What's your first memory of watching Chicken Little?
Oh.
Or what do you an early memory. It doesn't have to be the first
or
one.
like, what do you connect with it? Anything of the above.
So I kind of connect with it on a lot of different levels. Just I loved it when I was little. Like I have a list on like Letterboxd and stuff where it's like childhood movies, and that's on the top of it. One of my first like memories connecting with it is me and my dad used to joke about the who we talking about thing that his dad does. He'll like say something, then his dad will say something, then they start doing this thing, and they're like, who are we talking about, blah, 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 and me and my dad would do that. And so that's one of the connections I have with that is like that kind of joke between us. But I just always kind of loved this movie, like have a deep connection with it. I loved just like the concept of them turning like that kind of classic tale into this like more science fiction version of it. I always thought that was really interesting.
That's interesting to me because I feel like they never really, like in any of the advertising, they don't go in. Do you know this is an alien invasion movie?
I do because I did research.
Okay.
Otherwise, I had no idea. So it was a surprising fact to learn.
I was watching the making of, and they're like, so-and-so play. It's get ready, Fred Willard and Catherine O'Hare as the alien parents.
Oh, I'm really excited for that.
And I went, there are alien parents in this movie? Like I had no clue. Jack, you were -1.
Yeah,
when this came out, so
I was not alive, but I think Parker made me watch it very early on. Classic older brother move is making me watch the movies that didn't exist when I was. Or wait,
you didn't exist.
Yeah, that. And he made me watch it a lot. We watched it on. I think I watched it on a road trip for the first time.
Yeah,
that sounds right, to Memphis. And just, I loved it because I loved Chicken Little as a kid. I don't know, like, the actual story as a kid. And then taking that and adding, like, aliens and stuff was just so funny to me.
It's just bizarre because it's, like, what they did with it was so different. Like, it was, like, they had done, like, obviously, like, fairy tales before, like Snow White and all that stuff in Disney. And then,
they'd
like,
actually done this story before.
In 1943. They did a
World War II propaganda film.
Oh my God.
With this story. So this is their second time doing Chicken Little.
Their second attempt at Chicken Little,
Yes.
I guess we should say.
We also connected with it because Jack and Dad love the band Bare Naked Ladies, and they have a song in that, and we just
okay.
I remember
Yes,
we
I
talked
saw
about that. Yeah.
We're just skipping right over a World War II propaganda?
Yep.
Okay.
Listen, there's a lot of that talk in this podcast. Do you have any memories of this at all?
I've not seen it,
Okay.
so I have no memories.
I remember it coming out. I'm gonna be honest. I'm excited to see it with you guys. This was one of the ones on my list. This kind of the the three that I was like, is Home on the Range, this, and Meet the Robinsons that we could not find guests for to save our lives.
And we enjoyed Home on the Range. Listeners,
So,
you'll have just heard
right,
that.
yes, so
and we enjoyed it.
I'm hoping coming out of this in our like terrible 3 bracket, like we're at least 2 for 3 liking. Because I assume watching it with you guys who enjoy it, we're going to get something
So
out of it
have you
that
seen
way.
it?
Hopefully.
I have not. And I'll go into that in a sec. Because when it
Okay.
came out, I went, this looks dumb. It was also when they kind of switched over to CG, and I have my opinions on that at the time. I did not like it, and when I do remember a very specific memory I have of it is when I would come over and you guys would try to get me to watch it, and I would say, can we watch Kung Fu Panda instead? Because I love Kung Fu Panda. So that was
That's pretty great.
That was my, I know they're gonna, like, it was every time I came over, it was, let's watch a movie, and I'd always, like, slip Kung Fu Panda onto the top of the thing. Like, oh, Kung Fu Panda, I don't think I've seen that one.
I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I remember that
especially,
too.
time.
like, really tried to convince you guys to watch Kung Fu Panda. One day we'll do Kung Fu Panda on this podcast.
Yeah.
Great movie. No, I haven't seen it. I'm excited to see it, especially with you guys. But let's go into a little bit of the history.
Yeah, so it came out in 2005. Sadly, it got a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes, so not a high score.
But it made a ton of money.
Yes, it made a huge amount of money.
Yes.
48% on Metacritic, and it was a computer animated comedy, and
It was the first fully computer animated movie by Disney Studios.
Really?
So that's interesting. I read that it was the second fully computer generated film. Dinosaur was the first.
Dinosaur has live action elements, remember?
Oh yeah,
So
look
this
at
is a-
you.
That's why I hated Dinosaurs.
Dinosaur's a
I really
weird
understand it.
movie.
It is. I will say we went in with very low expectations and enjoyed it more than we thought we were going to, but we had never seen it before.
The secret to enjoying the weird Disney movies is to see them with people who love them. So we watched them with someone who is like, oh, I know this is a flawed movie, but I love it.
And loves dinosaurs.
And she was a big dinosaur fan, so it was a lot of fun. She's like, oh, that's a Diplodocus, and let me tell you about the Diplodocus. And I was,
It was
like,
great.
yes.
Yeah.
It was great. There's one thing I was going to say about this movie because of how much money it made.
Do you have the exact figure of what it made?
It's like 300 million.
Yeah.
But it helped fund the purchasing of Pixar. In
Yes, I read
2006
that,
because
yeah.
because they finally had a Disney animated movie that did well after the big dry run of the early 2000s.
Yeah. So it's loosely based on the Henny Penny fairy tale. So the sky is falling with Chicken Little. So that's kind of where it comes from. It was also nominated for Best Animated Feature, but it lost to Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were Rabbit. So that's what winded up winning.
To what?
Did I say it right?
Wallace and
No,
Gromit.
I've never
Oh,
heard of that
okay.
movie in my life.
Oh,
That's
okay.
interesting.
love that movie.
Wallace and Gromit is not claymation, but it's stop motion animation.
Yeah.
And it's a British man and his dog, and he loves cheese, and he's a weird, like, he invents things.
So great.
And then Gromit, like, can't talk, but is, like, following behind him when they go wrong and, like, inevitably, like, rolling his eyes and fixing them.
I feel like you like that movie, right?
Yes, we used to watch the shorts. It came out as, like, a VHS. Guys, a VHS
I
was
know
it?
what
Okay,
we
sorry.
have
okay.
like
We have
thousands.
those.
Okay,
Ew.
just checking. So I had it on VHS. It was the first 3 shorts, and we used to. That was the one I used to say we would watch at like 2 a.m. and laugh hysterically and wake up our friends' parents who would come in and ask if we had been smoking weed, and we would like have to insist that no, we're just goofballs
And
we're
watching a
watching
movie.
that stupid
Yeah.
claymation thing for the 3rd time.
Well, to piggyback on the VHS fact, this is the last Disney animated theatrical movie to be released on VHS. This is the last one.
Do you want to go? So I have the top 3 movies of 2005.
Yeah, give us that.
Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Okay.
Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Nice.
And The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Nice. All 3.
I don't think there's any Disney ones. I mean,
there no
Lion, the
James
Witch,
Bond?
and the Wardrobe, but there's no James Bond this year. I'm so sorry.
We're always tracking James Bond along with everything else. So we've talked about Sir Patrick Stewart
This is
before because he has had to turn down previous voice roles of Disney. He's always wanted to voice a character in Disney, and I have the whole list. He wasn't able to do a lot of roles until this film.
He's
so
Mr. Woolensworth. Is that the character's name?
So here are the voices that he couldn't do because of Star Trek, because of his schedule. The Horned King in The Black Cauldron, Basil of Baker Street from The Great Mouse Detective, Francis from Oliver and Company, King Triton from The Little Mermaid, Cogsworth in Beauty and the Beast, Jafar in Aladdin, Zazu in The Lion King, Ratcliffe in Pocahontas, Frollo in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Zeus in Hercules, Clayton in Tarzan, Jumba in Lilo and Stitch, Mr. Arrow in Treasure Planet, Emperor of China in Mulan, and
The King
then
of Atlantis.
yeah, the King of Atlantis.
Can't say his name. But
Yeah.
it feels like he was asked to be in like every movie.
Every movie
Yeah, that's like
since,
a lot of like iconic characters. That's cool.
Most of them.
Every movie since Black Cauldron, I feel like since 1985, they went back to ask him, and we've read in the past he was so enthusiastic. Jafar was one that he really regretted he couldn't do, and I think we read about a couple other ones too. So I just found that really interesting.
I would regret it too if I didn't get to play Jafar, but I almost did. Like,
Yeah,
that's a pretty awesome role to like not have gotten to do. but have
exactly. And
offered
well,
to
and
you.
it's
That's-
also
I mean, it's perfect with I don't know the name, but
Jonathan Freeman,
that. I
who played him on Broadway as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Good.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
well, and it's interesting to think, if he was in one of those roles, how the character would be different, right? So
That's
there's
what I
that
always
to
think
it.
about stuff like that, where you hear like, oh, this big name actor almost got this role, and it's like,
Kurt Russell as Han Solo.
yeah, or like or
Yeah.
I forgot
Tom
about
Cruise
that.
as Iron Man. It's just like that's so bizarre to think about, but it's so interesting to think about like how it would have been so different.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about the production. So this is directed by Mark Dindal, who is also the director of Emperor's New Groove.
Oh.
Did you see that?
No, I did not.
It was originally pitched as Chicken Little being a girl character.
I read
For
about
about
that.
a year and a half, they produced it that way. Holly Hunter actually came in and did some voices for Chicken Little when she was a girl. And then they went across the street to Michael Eisner and said, "What do you think?" And he goes, "I think it should be a boy. If you're little and you're a girl, it's not a problem. If you're a little and you're a boy, boy." I did not say that. You do not need to shoot daggers at me. That was Michael Eisner, like 15 years ago.
Well, Michael Eisner has a strike against him in my book now.
So they changed it to a boy and cast Zach Braff. Parker, a little while ago, you were talking about the jokes between you and your dad doing the bits from this movie. They had such good chemistry, Zach Braff and Gary Marshall as Chicken Little, and possibly, I haven't met this character, but he may be one of my top 5 named characters in Disney history. Buck Cluck.
Yeah, and he's
And that's
an
Gary
amazing
Marshall?
character.
That's Gary
He's
Marshall.
awesome.
He's
Such
the dad.
a great dad.
They had such good chemistry, and they were bouncing off each other that they started recording them in the same room.
Oh, that's
Like
cool.
they just
Yeah,
had them
yeah.
do scenes.
I think I've seen behind the scenes of them doing that, and it's really interesting seeing like, that and like other movies, and you see like when they actually film them in the same room. It's really interesting seeing them like bounce off each other. It's like so interesting, and it's so different than normal voice acting.
Right.
Yeah.
I think they do it a lot more now.
Well, we saw
But
Beauty.
that was very new back then.
We saw that Beauty and the Beast. They did that where they brought in the orchestra with Howard
yeah.
Ashman, so they had different actors for that. But yeah, I think it's much more common now.
I also think they're getting a chance to like improv.
oh yeah,
Because
and that's different.
This being
yeah.
computer generated meant you could change things fairly easy. Things like lip sync and things like that fairly easily.
Yeah.
But one
Yeah.
thing I thought was really interesting about the CGI in this is they wanted it to feel like the old 40s Goofy cartoons. They wanted it to
does.
feel very kind of madcap and weird, and they wanted to, I think a lot at this time, Toy Story did this a little and Pixar got better. But one of the things this movie does is they do the 2D animation squash and stretch technique, which is
Yes.
giving your characters more elasticity by not just moving them around in a room, but making them kind of stretch. And like when they move, like when Chicken Little walks, you'll notice he's got a very round head and it goes and it kind of like oblongs.
Yeah,
and
and
stuff.
his like feet do that too. I think there's this one shot I'm thinking about where in the beginning he like gets stuck to this gum and he pulls it and even his like leg like it's like
Yeah.
stretching, and it's a great like style to
It's
it.
things that not necessarily a real life thing Chicken could do, but it's something that it's an old animation principles, because there's a 12 principles of animation. I'm saying it wrong, and Carly, our listener, who's an actual animator, is screaming at the podcast right now.
Yikes.
But the picture, the scene they did is when I think Foxy Loxy like slingshots him into the window.
Yes. I know
Foxy
exactly what you're
Loxy,
talking about.
voiced by Amy Sedaris. I'm telling you, I started looking at the voice cast of this, and I'm like, wow, I'm kind of shocked Tara hasn't watched this.
So,
Crazy cast.
do you know what the digital tool was called for everything you're describing?
Chicken wire.
Yeah, I thought that was fun. So they called it chicken wire, and it was a geometric wire frame model of the characters, and so they could do all the things you just mentioned.
Yeah, so instead of it was so they'd have kind of a like, it's imagine making, we're just getting out of spooky season here a little while ago when people were doing, I guess when this comes out it's going to be February, so never mind.
That's fine.
But like when people make like chicken wire
ghosts
or whatever, and you can kind of like make their head do that bounce thing. I think it's kind of doing that to it.
Yeah.
It's fun.
So
Another program that the technical team designed and built was called Shelf Control. Did you read about this?
No.
So it allowed them to see the whole model on a screen while having a direct access to any chosen area of the character. So that apparently helped them out.
I'm not sure I understand what that means, but
What?
It's a fact I read, so
Okay, there we
I don't
go.
know that I know what it means.
listen, folks, we're here to report, not always to explain.
Yes,
so.
So the whole model on the screen while having direct, so I guess they could see the entire character and then could access any area to
Let's
fix
not
it?
speculate. Again, let's reach out directly to Carly and say, Carly,
Yes, tell us what it is.
tell us what this means.
Also, I read a fact that the Chicken Little character is comprised out of 5,600 polygons, 700 muscles, and more than 76,000 individual feathers, of which 50,000 were on his head.
They did a cool thing in the thing I saw where they were like, they could play with how fuzzy he was. They had like bars for that. So it was like, it looked really funny because they did it and his eyebrows got really big and his feathers went out and did that sort of thing. Do you guys like have a favorite character that you guys liked when you watched this? Do you know who your favorite?
I like Chicken Little obviously a lot, but the I forget what his name is, but the fish in the bowl.
The little alien
guy,
guy,
yeah.
yeah.
Fish in the bowl.
Water,
Fish out of water. And then also the little alien guy that like comes down. He's like kind of like the main plot device.
I don't know anything about the aliens. Like
Oh,
I
no,
saw a picture of him for the first time and I was like, that's what they look like. It's been 15
there's
years.
this little orange guy and
They got like
orange
3
guy is my
eyes.
favorite.
So
Fish Out of Water's
Fish Out
awesome.
of Water is one of the editors did the voice, and the way he did it is it was a voice he used to do for his kids, like. But then he would do it into like a big plastic pipe into a jug of water.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
the microphone was like above it. He'd be like, and the bubbles are coming up and doing all that stuff. So have you seen Fish Out of Water? He's like a fish that just walks around, but he's got like a diving helmet that's full of water.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's
So
great.
He's a great character, and the design for that character is really cool in my opinion. That's one of the reasons that I like him. It's just because of that.
He's like the coolest guy in the school, right? Like or like he's got a lot of confidence.
What is the one guy who is it? He goes like dope or something. The guy who
Porcupine.
Yeah, and he does this like voice, and he goes like in this really deep voice. I forget what he says, but it's like dope or something like that. It's
I
just
think
like
he says yo, bro, and
yo,
whoa.
bro. Yeah, whoa, that's the one. He's just like.
It's
Whoa.
voiced
It's
by
great.
the director Mark Dindal. He did those
Oh,
lines,
that's
right?
great.
beautiful.
I just love them picking, because all the names are like Turkey Lurkey, Foxy Loxy, and then let's pick a name that's incredibly hard to rhyme and just do it anyway.
Fish Out of Water?
No, Morcupine.
Oh, I was like...
But there's Fish Out of Water, there's Ugly Duckling, there's Runt of the Litter, like there's some of those in here too.
Well,
My
go ahead.
My favorite thing is like the texture of the animation, because like you can see how because this was fairly new, right? Because what was it, 2005? Yeah, so it's fairly new is being able to like see every individual feather on Chicken Little's head.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff
what
like
y'all were
that.
talking about, like the different feathers and how
crazy.
many feathers he has. That's really cool, like the programs that they developed for that type of thing. And then what I think about when I think about that is Tangled. Actually, they did like for the hair. They developed stuff so that her hair would really flow with how long it was, and like those type of programs are really interesting to me.
So we're about to blow y'all's mind. We haven't seen Tangled.
I know.
Oh, y'all need to go.
I know.
Oh,
Everyone
I'll,
has.
I'll do that with you.
Yeah, everyone has told us we're probably going to watch it before we do the podcast episode for
So
it,
we can just
so we can
enjoy
just
it.
enjoy
Yes,
it and then go
it's
back and do the research.
fantastic.
But I'm obsessed with good hair, and it starts with
Yes.
Ariel. Like Ariel's hair in the water is so cool, but
Yeah.
Moana's hair is
It,
really
like,
great.
floats around.
Yeah, so I'm excited for Tangled hair too.
It's the same type of program as this
Sully.
is a game, but what I was talking about was Force Unleashed with the way that they do the glass and stuff.
What?
It's the way it breaks apart. Like they've developed programs that it breaks apart. It's the
Yeah.
same type of like real physics and hair and
Well,
like feathers and stuff like that.
That's the thing a little bit about computer animation is once you've developed a program for something, it's easy. It's not necessarily easy, but it's like you do something in 2D. It's a technique you still have to teach someone. If I do a program in 3D animation, I can use it on the next movie.
And
the
someone
next
can
game.
adapt
Yeah,
it.
someone can adapt
Yeah.
it. You don't have to just teach the technique. I think the hair thing. The first thing I remember that being a big thing in was Monsters Inc.
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
Sully.
with
The way
Sully's
that hair
fur.
fuzzy and everything.
Which I remember again, like when we watched Toy Story, I watched a scene from Monsters Inc. and I'm like, oh, I remember that. I used to think this was like the end all be all of hair animation, and now I'm like, oh, it looks so cotton ball-y and weird.
It's really
still good.
interesting. Like when you like saw something that young and you're like, oh, it looks so good, and then you look back. Like if you ever rewatch the first Incredibles versus the new one, the second one, and it's just like, whoa, it's like. Oh, like it looks like blocks, and it's like, whoa, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then you're like, it's just different to think about that perspective. Yeah.
So I read, I don't know if you read this, that there was a sequel in production called Chicken Little 2, The Ugly Duckling Story. What? But when John Lasseter was appointed chief creative officer for Disney Animation, his first task was to cancel all sequels. So
Which is ironic because John Lasseter was the one who did like Cars 2 and Cars 3. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
he loves the Cars movies.
So I
kid.
don't, but I'm wondering because this movie made a lot of money, but in general, Disney was not making a lot of money at this time
For
with their
animation,
animation
yeah.
features. So I'm wondering if he was tasked to come in and cut anything that they thought they weren't going to make money on. Now,
Well,
I
it
think
may
they
have
would have
also-
made money on this sequel because this was so successful. But
I think one of the reasons this movie probably made money, and I don't want to dump on this movie, but I think there was a conception.
watch it. You've got some
I know.
diehard fans.
There was a
in here.
conception that this was a Pixar movie,
Okay.
and I think everyone was like Pixar, just associated computer animation with Pixar. But it didn't have as good as so I think maybe a sequel, they were worried people are going to figure out this isn't Pixar. All the people who came because they thought they were coming to a Pixar movie
Yeah.
aren't going to come, and there wasn't that good of a reviewer response. So I think that might have been why they did it.
Speaking of Lasseter, this is the last movie to not have his involvement for 16 years.
Yes.
Then the next one is
Wow.
Raya.
His
So,
16-year reign of
wasn't a-
terror of awkwardly hugging people in the
Yes.
studio.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
John Lasseter's a bad dude.
You can look up some
You
stuff
can-
on
you-
him.
you can
Aw,
look
that makes
If you want. Yeah. It's not great. But
Do we have anything else we want to go over? Do you guys have anything else you want to chime in with before we?
oh,
sit
is
down
there
and
a
watch
villain in this? And if so,
Not,
who
like,
would you?
particularly like? There are like, but not like anyone who's like actually like is like. There's no one particularly you'd look at and be like, that is the villain.
Got
It's
it.
like very.
There's
situational
antagonists, but
stuff
there's
like that.
not.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like people who are kind of like there's like the jerks in school and stuff like that, but there's no one that's like the true like always going against like Chicken Little, other than honestly everyone, other than like him and his friends. It's just very like the world against him. It's very there's not really like a main villain.
Okay.
But one of the things I was gonna say about this movie that makes it so interesting, and I think one of the things that makes it so special is like when you look at it and like you look at each individual character, even like the side characters, like people who have one line. It's crazy to see just like how much like personality and uniqueness they give each character with their designs, their voices, their dialogues. Everything's very different from character to character, and it makes it all that more unique and special and like cool to like see it and like see how all these characters are interacting. Like some characters interact differently with like kids than they do adults, and I'm like, that's really cool because that's realistic. It's one of the things I like about it so much. Yeah.
Well, do we have anything else? Do you have any other facts?
I
Or
don't.
you wanna So we think it's time to take the VHS out of the clamshell and stick it in the VCR?
We'll see you on the other side, listeners.
Jack, a VHS is an old
Wow. Hello, listeners. We are back, and I am curious what everyone thought. I thought it was cute. I liked it.
I liked it. It was all right.
It doesn't seem like you liked it. I feel you may have been a little bit more harsh on it if your nephews weren't here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think I'd watch it again on my own, but if they wanted to watch it, I'd watch it again.
Okay.
You
Well,
guys,
how was it for you guys rewatching it?
It
I think
definitely
it's-
still had the nostalgia factor. Like it definitely was still.
It's so funny to me that we're talking about nostalgia factor in a movie from 2005.
I know.
Okay, but
doesn't
you have
have
to
that.
understand for
Yeah, that's
me,
what I'm
like,
saying.
that,
It's-
like for me, that's like that was like honestly, that's kind of one
You were
one
two.
of if not the first movie that I kind of remember watching.
Yeah.
Like
I know, your babies.
yeah, so it's very much like holds a like special place in my heart, and so. It's interesting rewatching it. I think that's my first time rewatching it in a while. But it's interesting rewatching it and then looking at it from a statement of like, especially me. I think it's been maybe 2, maybe 3 years since I watched that movie, and like my perspective on like movies and stuff has obviously changed within the past 2 or 3 years because of me like getting really into film and everything. And so it's interesting looking at it now. I still love the movie, number one, because of nostalgia, and also because it's just, I genuinely do think it's a good movie. I like the story of, like, father and son being disconnected, but both of them are really trying, and all that. I just think that's a really great, like, story premise. But then it's also, like, interesting to look at it differently, because it's no longer just it brings out the kid in me. It's also, like, this is also an actual movie, let me look at it that way, and it gives you a different view.
Yeah.
What did you think, Jack?
I didn't have the nostalgia factor because the last time I watched it, I was probably like 3, and I didn't remember it at all. It's not one of those movies that has nostalgia for me. I don't know why. But I liked it. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle between Ryan and Tara. Like,
I did not like it. Like, I just here's the thing. I liked the story. I don't think some of the jokes kind of fell flat for me. Some of the jokes I laughed out loud at.
Yeah.
I liked the father-son story. I just think, and I've said this on other episodes, I think it's suffering from that trying to be Shrek thing that I
Yeah.
think Disney kind of
Yes, that's
does a lot during this time and then pulls out of and gets to the more new classic movies like Frozen and Wreck-It
Princess
Ralph
Princess and the Frog.
yeah, those type
Yeah.
of ones. I think they do better. This one's still a little like. There's this thing with animated movies where it's always weird to me, and this one seems to do it, where it's like, hey, it's an animated movie, so for kids, so we're gonna like use music that's like for kids they love. Gloria Gaynor and Diana Ross, and it's kind of like.
Honestly, I thought the
guess.
music was varied. There was Spice Girls in there. Marvin Gaye's "Ain't No Mountain High
But
Enough."
none
I
of
Will
them,
Survive.
To me, like the most recent song that they did that they didn't write for the movie was Spice Girls, which is 7 years earlier.
But don't you think that almost gives it more of a timeless
did.
feel now? Because
No, I think it gives it a timeless feel to a time it's not. I think it's weird.
I would
but
disagree
it's like,
with
it's
that.
like
but-
Trolls and other movies like that where they come out like the Emoji Movie where it's like, look, they've got emojis and a 70s song. Kids love this 70s song, and I just don't see that. I think I put this movie way above Trolls and the Emoji Movie from what I've seen of Trolls and the Emoji Movie. But I think that's a thing they were doing around this time where it was like, I'm not exactly sure who they're trying to appeal to within. I don't think this movie is very timeless, but I think it's got some things that I really liked in it. I like the aliens. I like the animation. I liked a lot of the voice performances. Mm-hmm. I like the name Buck Cluck is my favorite thing about the whole movie. It's
Yeah.
the best name in all of Disney animation. There's things I liked about it. I did enjoy it. I did start falling asleep in the middle, but I will say some of that as my sister has a very comfortable reclining sofa. So that's probably has more to do with it than the movie. But
I don't know. I guess from the music perspective, I liked that it was using music from different decades because I think it's cool when a new generation discovers music that has existed before.
Well, that was
so
one
for
thing
the music therapist in me, I think that's fascinating because at the end, Don't Go Breaking My Heart was playing, and then you connected to why Parker knows that song.
Parker used to sing that song a lot when he was younger.
Yeah, so I think there's something cool about that he knows that song from a completely different reason as to why you and I know it, as to why our parents know it.
Well, Dad also used to have that Elton John album
Yeah.
in his car, so I wonder if like Parker mentioned liking it and then
It was probably
Grandpa got
probably,
it, yeah.
Probably a mix
Yeah.
between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a great example of how one song crosses generations and everyone has a different experience with it. So I think for me, that's why I kind of like the mix of music more than I get your point, but I don't know. I
also
enjoyed that
think
it was
that-
varied.
I also think that was kind of a device they used to try and have movies appeal to people because of the, like, if you watch that with a parent and you're young enough, then you have things like that to relate to your parents on, and that can draw audiences to something. That's something you see a lot in, like, movies like that with Disney and stuff, is they try to make things that both parents and kids can enjoy, and I think if you add the factor of both parents and kids can relate to each other on this now, I also think that can draw audiences and help, like, sell better movies.
Thoughts, Ryan?
sure.
It's clear you don't agree.
I'll tell you, the part I enjoyed the most was like the last third.
Okay.
Like when the
Aliens
alien invasion
invaded.
like
Yeah.
kicks off. I thought that had a real Mitchells versus the Machines.
I was getting that vibe too.
feel,
Yeah.
like in the way they animated the aliens and the like face, like because they have like they're in those shells, which Tara as many times as she possibly could related this movie to Independence
I mean,
Day.
how could you not?
Like 5 times at least.
But like the Parker is eating Hershey
Sorry.
Kisses on Mike. Very unprofessional. Very
I was trying to do it as quietly as...
I can hear
bad.
everything.
My bad. Okay, I'll
But
stop. My bad.
I think when they're running around, they've got like the facial things that make them just look like mad, and it's like red, green, blue. No, red, green,
Orange.
yellow,
Orange.
like
Yeah.
yeah.
like a stop sign. I like that a whole lot. I liked when this movie was. I liked the whole last third. It wasn't just like, oh, I like the alien invasion part. It was like that's when the father son talking to each other thing came together.
It's when he kisses Abby. I love Abby. Abby's my favorite.
I will say, and we'll get into this.
Weird how Abby just like completely stops like
Yeah,
I would
being
agree
a
with
functioning
that.
human being.
Yeah.
when she's like, "Oh, I like being kissed," I was kind of like, "All right, get over." Like when she came out of the movie theater, from then on, she should have been useful because the whole point of the movie is she's like the only one who knows what's going on.
She's also the one who gets made fun of that she's called ugly all the time. So finally somebody loves her. So
Right.
maybe that took her off guard.
I guess, but
Being
okay.
defensive of Abby because I really liked that character. But I get the point you guys
When
are
she
trying to
was
make.
still like later in the thing, still like Twitter pated
Yeah.
over being kissed, I was like,
Yeah.
all right, this part is
Yeah,
like,
I get
I'd like
that.
to see her being functional and useful again because that was the whole point of the first, whatever the movie was. She was very, very useful.
Yeah.
and it was fun at the end when they were like holding hands in the theater and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I like
Yeah.
that. So it's just a little part where I was like, what happened to Abby?
Yeah, I get that.
And it just bothers me because it's the female character.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, she's
Yeah.
been kissed, so everything's out the window now.
Yeah.
right? So.
Is
We're
she
gonna
the
start-
only? No, Foxy Loxy. So
And
Foxy
and the best
Loxy.
character, Goosey Lucy. we just kept like yelling
love
and doing that.
Goosey
I love
Lucy.
Goosey Lucy.
Throw stuff around.
So
Yes.
I guess we'll get into it, and I obviously have my notes of the plot, and I'll try to just like kind of go along, but you guys can interject with whatever you liked. But I like that the castle was so different. Like the castle
the
was
castle was
designed
great.
Yeah.
like the town, which was cool.
The design of each like life and family and like the chickens had an egg car.
Yeah,
And
the rabbit babies, the bunnies coming out of the stroller, and it
Oh
was
my
like
God.
21 of them.
That
So
legitimately. Because
Yeah.
it starts off and it's him ringing the bell and going, the sky is
Well,
falling.
before that, it's how do we start this movie, and it's like once upon a time, and that's not right. And then they do the Lion King opening,
like
and
that
then
little
and
bit.
that made me laugh.
I like that bit a lot.
Yeah,
That's really
and then they
funny.
try to open the storybook, which is a big thing from the older fairy tales.
That was directly to you, the Lion King joke.
It
That
very
was like,
much
we want
was.
to make sure Tara enjoys it.
Yes.
I thought book thing was a Shrek dig.
Oh, so it also from like Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Cinderella, they all open with a big storybook.
They all do that too?
Yeah.
So Shrek was probably making fun of.
Shrek was probably making fun of
That's
Disney.
true.
So yeah, it kind of comes full circle, I guess.
So I want you guys to know real quick before we go on. The reason I'm not looking at you when you talk is so I can get to the microphone, not because I'm like ignoring you. I hope that doesn't come off.
Yeah.
Okay. Just double checking.
Yeah, so then comes Chicken Little, opens up, code red, sky is falling, and the town proceeds into chaos. And so this is where we also get to see a lot of details of all the different families, all the different animals, and kind of how they interact with one another. And then they're watching Raiders of the Lost Ark in the movie theater. So it's Indiana Jones,
Like a
and then
live
the water,
action, yeah.
and then the water tower. It's the ball from the water tower comes rolling through the theater at that part.
Is
in
there
Raiders.
something else they do that's live action in this, or did I?
It's just the Indiana Jones.
I think it's just Indiana
I thought there was
Jones.
something else.
I do like what they do with that moment, going back to the bunnies and the stroller. That moment after it goes through or is it before it goes through? Either way, it's when the thing's rolling and then
Like
you see them
the
pulling
bunnies
out, and
back
it's like
out.
you're like, okay, like they're not gonna show just like these bunnies being like mauled over with this ball, but at the same time you're like, okay, can you like it's like times it just right. I like that a lot.
Well, I liked in this world that like everything had something. Like they were like the guy mowing the lawn, and he's just
And it's the
wheelbarrowing
goat.
the goat.
Yes.
And it's like they are, because I feel like Disney movies, they do things like Home on the Ranges. Animals know their place, but they can talk to each other.
Yeah.
But then
Zootopia is, I feel like is
different.
Pulls a like
Zootopia does this a little bit. But there's also like Robin Hood doesn't do things to say he's a fox.
He's just a fox.
He's just a fox.
Yeah.
And in this one they're like, I'm a dog and I know I'm a dog. Like when the dog's watching the movie, then he's like, and his tail's wagging.
Yeah,
There's
or
all
when
that sort of stuff.
the dog parent and child are playing fetch out in the yard
Yes.
and are like practicing. So basically, they think that he cried wolf, essentially.
Yes.
Said the sky was falling, nothing happened. He couldn't find the piece of the sky that hit him. He describes it as being shaped like a stop sign and that it was blue, and he can't find it. And that comes into play later. And so they just think it was an acorn that hit his head. And so a year later, a crazy, crazy little chicken, the movie, comes out. Still based on this incident that happened with him saying the sky is falling. And so you find out that the town hasn't forgotten. No one's forgotten. His dad is embarrassed. His dad isn't really proud of his son and just kind of is always apologizing for his son.
It's crazy to me that this town has such a heavy impact on the filmmaking industry.
Right?
Yes. But we also see at one point when they're driving the bull in the china shop.
Yes, there's a bird that keeps running
Like a
into
stork.
the store window.
Yeah, which I thought that was fun.
Which is a good bit.
And then it goes into the Bare Naked Ladies song. And I actually really like that song. I do like that there's some...
I mean, do you like Bare Naked Ladies
Yeah,
songs?
so that's probably why.
No offense, but it just sounded like a Bare Naked Ladies song,
yeah,
so
Bare
it
Naked
was
Ladies
good.
are
Yeah.
great.
But I liked that there was some new music along with music that we mentioned earlier, like hits that you knew. And so this is a whole montage of Chicken Little trying to catch the bus. And you realize that no one is really helping him out. Everyone's kind of still annoyed at him.
There's a bit later when Abby says, "Did you run into your nemesis again?" Or
Yes.
I ran into my nemesis again. She's like, "Gum on the sidewalk."
Yeah, I like that. It's an ongoing thing. But then this is when the title of the movie comes. So we see a good bit of the movie before we see the title. And then he winds up losing his pants. He's stuck in the gum and tries to figure out a creative way to get into school without anyone seeing him in his underwear. Cheerleaders wind up seeing him in his underwear. And then he uses notes as pants. He makes like shorts or
I
pants.
also really like. Sorry, you go.
I love Chicken Little's, like, I'm trying to think of a word for it other than, like, MacGyverness, like, the ingenuity of using, like, a soda bottle and, like,
Yes.
everything he does is
You can
kind
tell
of, like,
he's
smart.
You can tell he's adapted to being very small.
That.
Yeah.
I was gonna say right after they roll the opening title, I like that it very much transitions from kind of like more grounded, but we're seeing Chicken Little doing all these things, to when they start One Little Slip, which is the song. It like does this like really jarring motion out of the title, and it like swoops in down into him, and you see him like dodging in between everyone's legs and all that, and it very much like puts you in his shoes. You see all this, and like the way that they cut it and the way that it's like edited and put together is really well done to put you in his shoes and make you feel very like, you know, awkwardly like trying to make it through this like world, this town. It's I like that, like diving into that character and how he feels there.
Yeah, I think you get his perspective. That's a really good way to describe it. Not only do you feel small because you're kind of seeing it from his point of view, but kind of how he's feeling. I like that we get to meet all the students here. So we get to meet all the personalities, all the different students. They're in mutton class. And Sir Patrick Stewart has like the smallest role. I felt so bad for him. He's the teacher here. But he doesn't have a huge part. And then they go to gym and they play dodgeball. And then
Popular versus unpopular.
Yes. And this is where, though, we get to meet kind of Chicken Little's group of friends. So it's Runt, Abby, Fish out of water. Fish is great.
Fish is the best character.
I think Abby is my favorite. But do you have a favorite?
I like Fish out of water a lot.
Yeah,
I
Fish
did like
is good.
Abby. I just like when they. I like that everyone calls her Ugly Duckling, but she doesn't care. She's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
she just does not care about it.
And I like that her feathers are in pigtails. I don't know. Her design
Yeah,
was
that
cool.
was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
So this is Chicken Little. He's going back to, I just need one chance to do something great. And he says this throughout. Like, he's trying to make up for the sky is falling incident. And I like all the magazine titles. They have Modern Mallard, Cosmo Duck, Cosmopolitan. Like, they're pretty creative with all of the magazines that she's referring to try to get him to talk to his dad.
Yeah, because that's Abby's whole thing during the whole thing. She's trying to get them to talk to each other because they're both ignoring. Because not only did the town kind of go, oh, it was an acorn, not this, but that was his dad's theory. Like, his dad was like, it's
His dad
okay.
came up with it, yeah.
He just seems embarrassed by the whole thing.
Well, and we find out that, we don't know when, but that they've lost his mom. So we do find out at one point.
Assuming she could have flown south for the
She
winter.
could have, yes, but she's not around.
Okay.
Either way. And we find that out a little bit later. So I'm sure that there's some complicated feelings there too, like as to maybe why they don't talk. But we also see all the cool kids. I wrote, cool kids are so mean.
Goosey Lucy was my favorite.
Yeah,
also
but
just honk at everybody.
Foxy Loxy was awful. She was the meanest. But then
She's the best baseball player.
I know, but she's
Morcupine, what is it?
Porcupine,
Porcupine.
Yes.
Porcupine. That's just love.
I know,
I
zooming
love
in
it.
Yeah.
on his woes.
Yo.
So then the fire alarm, it winds up, there's this whole montage with the dodgeball, and Chicken Little kind of gets slammed against the window, slides down to the fire alarm, it goes off, the sprinklers go on, and then his dad is pulled into the principal's office to
Which is a very similar scene to a Goofy movie. 'Cause
Yes.
It's, again, a single dad being told that their kid's a problem when their kid's got, fairly good intentions. I mean, Chicken Little didn't mean to do that, and Max meant to put on the power
Max
line
knew
costume.
that he was doing
pulling
something
a
he
stunt.
shouldn't do, but
Yeah.
yeah. And it's the same voice. The principal
well,
is the
Sean.
same voice in both movies, which was kind of fun. And then this is when we also find out his dad's a baseball star, and the principal says, your kid's nothing like you, and, things that you don't really want to hear when you're a kid.
Which
sitting
was
outside.
a really, really good way to show us that, so it wasn't like forced on our face. It was very kind of, I liked that, because I've seen movies that do that type of thing, and then they do it very, like,
Ham-fisted.
yeah, you're like, here, did you know? Instead of like, kind of like the way that they did that, and they like kind of had like, you hear the principal and his dad talking in the background, and then you kind of see like the trophies, and you're like, oh, that's interesting, and you kind of get that, and you see him process that and be like, I have an idea, like, and
Yeah.
that's a really good segue into that next scene. That then, yeah.
Yeah, so then it gives Chicken Little the idea, I'm going to join the baseball team. I put on 5 ounces. I'm bulking up.
Yeah, and so he's really, and then he does this thing, which I think we've all done at some point as kids, where you say something and you mean it, but then your parents give you a reaction and you're like, oh, I was just kidding. But like, and he does that with like, I want to play baseball, and then he says, just kidding.
Well, he said, no, because he says, I'm going to take that
He goes, I'm
thing
gonna
in
take
for
that
a touchdown.
Oh.
And his dad's like, oh, God.
Got it.
"No,
He
I'm
goes, just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was more of like, he was trying
Just
to be
kidding, Dad.
earnest,
No,
and then,
no.
yeah.
Ernest.
Earnest, isn't that it? Like he was
What?
being
Hey, Vern.
earnest about. Oh, you're saying you
Yes.
love the Ernest Scared Stupid or Ernest movies,
Films.
films. They are not. Well, here's a question, and you don't have to share. Has anyone been called into the principal's office?
Yeah, I
You guys don't have to share if you don't
You're
want
talking
to.
about like within us?
Let me tell this story. We might cut it out because I'll tell you what happened. I was supposed to we were in the library and I was supposed to pick up these books.
Yeah.
And one of the kids he ended up being he was very smart, but then he decided, he sucked. But I picked up a book, and when he didn't do what I wanted, I hit him on the back of the head with a book, kind of thump.
Oh.
And so I did that, and rightfully he got up and punched me in the nose.
You know.
And it was interesting because I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know why. Hit me right in the nose, and it didn't bleed. It hurt, it hurt.
Yeah.
But it wasn't hard enough to bloody my nose. Mm-hmm. And I just went okay, and I went over and told the teacher, and he hit me in the back of the head with a book. And I remember when I told the teacher, I'm like, "Oh, you're gonna get in trouble because you punched me," and I didn't think I was gonna get in trouble because all I did was hit him in the back of the head with a book.
Yeah. I don't think I ever was sent to.
Ever?
I don't think so.
Of course
I think
not.
I'm the same as Tara.
I definitely have.
Yeah,
I have quite a few stories, but I'm actually pretty proud of this year and last year. I have not been in the principal's
There
office
you
at
go.
all. I haven't gotten
On the
in
straight and
trouble yet.
narrow.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
Well, okay,
Hey,
I
and
did
it's not
a
bad.
little bit this year, but it wasn't because I got in trouble. It was I was going to talk to them because they asked me to come in to talk about a situation with someone else. But
Yeah.
other than that, I haven't in the past 2 years. Which is
And
really
I just
cool.
want to say that plenty of people have been to the principal's office and gone to
Yes.
do amazing things.
I haven't.
I haven't either, Jack. I mean, we're
us.
just above
We're
the rest.
built different, I guess.
I think this is the first podcast where you can hear someone's eyes rolling.
So anyway, then we get into another little montage, but it's a slower song. This is when they get home after the baseball conversation, and we find out that the mom's no longer around. And I love that.
This is Five for Fighting.
Is that what it was
Oh
called?
yeah, it was the
It's a band.
Oh, okay. Well, I had
What
no
was
idea.
the song?
I don't know. I love that
it's
band.
fine.
I love Five for Fighting.
I
They
love
did,
it's
they did
another thing where
100
I
years,
love their
which
name
is
more than anything else. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's like a hockey reference. I'm like, yeah, Five for Fighting.
It is?
And then, yeah, you get 5 minutes for fighting.
Oh.
It's a penalty.
huh?
It's a penalty. And
Oh, you mean you get 5 minutes if you fight? I thought
Yeah,
you meant
so that's what they call it.
I don't know why my brain went to there's 5 minutes designated to fight, and I'm like, what?
Right
it's
now on our podcast.
they're like, no, I mean
Ready
I
to
thought
go.
you were saying in hockey they're like,
Oh,
oh,
no,
here
no.
timer, I was like,
Yeah.
what?
if you get in a fight, you get 5 for fighting.
Oh, okay.
So I heard that band, I'm like, oh, they're gonna have some real great rock songs, and it's all like, it's like all real slow. I'm like, okay.
That was 100 years. That was-
Yeah,
It's a good
that
song,
was
but
it.
it's not-
Yeah.
It's not my type of music.
Yeah.
That
But
was one of the first songs I ever learned, first non-classical songs I ever learned on piano.
oh, that's cool. So I really like the details of the chicken house. It looks like a chicken coop. There's chicken
Yeah.
wire covering the windows. There's chicken wire as you go up the stairs. It's instead of a railing, it's chicken wire.
It's got a metal roof.
Yeah, it's got the metal roof. And he has a wishing on a star moment here. He's not
Well, yeah.
technically wishing on a star because he says all I need is a change, and we find out it is not a star, it's the spaceship. So we find that out later on, but it has that feeling of Pinocchio and other movies where they look out and wish on a star. And then there's a Patti LaBelle song that comes up next while he joins the team, and there's this whole montage of him just basically sitting on the bench with a mitten.
I had
Instead
a
of
real hard time with this because the whole thing is he finally gets in to bat, and they're like, "Don't swing."
I
you
could
gotta
tell
move
you.
it
I
slow."
could tell you were pretty.
I was
You
like,
didn't know how to
well,
feel about that
it's
one.
two things. One, he shouldn't have swung. He should have listened to his coach. But at the same time, that coach had a responsibility to teach him how to be a baseball player, whether he's
Well,
good or
so
not.
did his dad being a baseball star. No
yes.
one and that's the point, right? No one believes in him and thinks that he can do anything that he can contribute to the baseball team, and it's clear that he could.
I had a friend's dad who was a really important person in my life because he was my baseball coach, and he was really like, I'm going to make you the best baseball player you can be. I'm probably not going to play in college or anything, but I was always worried about dropping the ball. He goes, oh, we'll put you at first. All you got to do is get in front of it. So I was at first, and if I dropped it, I just picked it up real quick, and the guy was out. You can run in a straight line. Just get to first. Just do this. This is all the things you are good at. We're going to make you good. And that's why when I saw this, I was like, Chicken Little. He had this tiny strike zone. I would kill for his tiny strike zone.
So was that coach also a teacher?
Yes, it was. I think it was a dodgeball teacher.
It was.
Gym teacher.
It was.
Gym teacher?
It was.
Well, oh, no. I'm saying your coach.
Oh, no, he was just my friend's dad.
Your friend's dad.
Yeah.
Well, no, because my question with that, and I think it overlaps with coaches and teachers in general, is that's what makes a good teacher. Like if
Yeah.
a teacher can see potential in a student and set them up for success, they're going to not only enjoy the subject, enjoy whatever they're teaching them, they're coaching them, but then they're going to feel successful. Like that's the whole point.
I will also tell you, he was one of the most amazing non-cussers I've ever met in my life. And that when you play usually on a baseball team, there's like 2 or 3 extra people that you swap out of positions and
Yeah.
stuff. So I'm sitting on the bench and someone would do something, they'd drop the ball or something, go, God,
So he would-
and he'd do it real like that.
he
and he'd go,
would-
good job, you did good, great. Just grab it next time. And then in the thing, he'd be like, kicking dirt.
He'd be Marv.
Yes,
from
he
Home
would be
Alone.
Bart from Home Alone. He was great. I will tell you one thing I did once in baseball. So think about a small strike zone. I would do that sometimes where he would go up and he'd be like, just don't, like only swing if it's a perfect pitch. We just need to get you on base, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And there was one time where I went up and he's like, remember, because the guy was throwing really like a lot inside.
Okay.
And he's like, if you get hit, you get on base, but blah, blah, blah. So the ball comes in and it comes in inside and I just lean in with my head and it just hits my head. Like the batting helmet clunk, and he goes, not like that. Like I was like, I got hit, coach. And he's like,
And listeners, that explains so
Yeah.
much.
yeah. That's what happened. That's the origin
Yeah,
story.
that's the origin
No, I
story.
feel bad because the people just listening will never understand the way that he just moved saying that. Like it was
yeah,
funny.
wobbly.
He like bobbed his head all around.
Yeah. So then it goes to this big game. So we find out, I think it's been something like 20 years or something crazy since they've won this.
Oh, I thought you meant like, yeah. Yes.
The big game in the movie.
Yes.
Sorry. Like they haven't won the baseball. Is it a tournament? A pennant match?
It's a
I forget what
match.
they.
I
Yeah.
think it's just like the big.
So a bunch of their players have injuries, and Chicken Little is up at bat, and so everybody basically sighs. Like nobody again is believing in him. Everyone's really bummed out that he's up at bat, and this is where the coach is like, just don't swing and get on base because Foxy Loxy is up next, and we find out she's very good at baseball. And so he winds up saying, today is a new day. And like on the third, he strikes out twice and then hits it on the third one and then doesn't know what to do because no one's coached him. So he's like running backwards.
He runs towards third. I think you should have been watching the game enough to realize
That's
which
true,
way
yeah.
to go.
Good. I guess that's a good point. You should
I
know.
will not fault him for not stopping on third and stuff.
Yeah, but the ball gets stuck in the horns of the cow. There's like this whole montage of like how
Yes,
the
it's
other
very
team
physical.
can't get the ball. And then they all come at the base at the same time, and you realize that after they dust away all the dirt, he's actually safe and he wins the game, and it's like a really big deal. So then it cuts to him singing I Am the Champion in his room, which is great. I love
like
that.
the
So
jukebox.
Zach Braff. Just like
Yeah.
perfect.
Which, by the way, I was listening to that and I never noticed this before this viewing of it, but it was so auto-tuned on pieces. Like there were pieces, not like so auto-tuned, but like you can hear that they're trying to have him match somewhat pitch.
Pitch him up. Yeah.
Yeah. Which was interesting to me. Not like so auto-tuned, but like it was like the same type of auto-tune that like Glee will do at points where you can tell that they matched pitch that they might not have matched perfectly. Mm-hmm. What was weird about that was they were switching back and forth, and like at the very end you hear him hit a note, and then they like did that like scream thing where you could tell they just turned it off all the way and let him just do his thing, and I was like, isn't the point he's not supposed to be a good singer, so just like let it be bad anyways? I don't know, whatever. That was just the thing. I was like, that was weird for me.
Yeah, I didn't really notice it, but I will say you make a good point of, he doesn't hit all the notes in it, and there's something charming about that. So either
Yeah.
leave that in or you go one way or the
Which
other.
was one of the things I did a few times with like him doing that, and then like whenever Runt would have songs and stuff like that. It was just like that type of thing was always like, it's cool to see like characters that aren't like actual singers like singing songs, because that's a realistic thing that people do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I was like, why would you need to, whatever.
Yeah, I love that they sing karaoke. I
Yeah, I
like
thought that
Runt
was so funny.
singing karaoke. But this is another, this is the first bonding moment with him and his dad. They're recreating him hitting the ball and running the bases and all these things. And then he looks up at the star after his dad leaves and says, thanks for the chance. And then the light gets bigger and he winds up getting hit on the head. And this is where we're first introduced to the aliens, at least their technology, I guess, at this point. And so it is a piece of the
This
sky.
is like halfway through the movie that
Yeah.
we're introducing this.
And it is a piece of the sky, or appears to be a piece of the sky, shaped like the stop sign. And now what he's realized is,
I do want to say one thing about that.
Okay.
Because he says shaped like a stop sign. Stop signs are octagonal, and these pieces are hexagonal.
Oh, good
my
point.
God.
I just want to point that out.
Good point.
Try
yeah.
it. Tara, please put your
relevant.
clothes
Not
back on. I
relevant.
know that was a
I
very,
know that
like-
was such an astute observation. So what we find out about it is it blends into its environment.
What'd you say?
That's a nerd.
Yeah, fair enough.
It blends in. Well, he did major in math, so.
Really?
It's geometry. You've got a geometry book downstairs. I saw it.
I wish I
Yeah,
didn't.
we're in high school. You have no excuse.
For knowing what a hexagon and an octagon, it's right there in the term. Hex, 6, oct.
Oh, wait, I thought you were talking about majoring in math still. Never mind. I thought you said you majored in
Sorry
geometry
for
and
that
then I was going to
peeking
make
when I-
Oh,
Yeah.
not geometry, but math in general, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
something like that. Anyways.
So we find out that this piece blends in with the environment, which is why he couldn't find it the first time around.
It reflects what's ever behind it.
I
which
love
when he's
that.
showing it to when he's showing it to fish.
Yeah, and I like how it's really cool when he like sticks his arm behind it and then it doesn't, and he goes back and he's like, whoa. He's like, that's weird.
Yeah.
I know that's simple animation, but it's good animation.
It's cool. Yeah.
Oh,
I also like
Sorry.
when they take it and they do that same thing that you're talking about when all the friends come. He calls up Abby. They're all singing karaoke, and he gets them over to the house, and they like have it be Abby's body, but
Yeah,
then
and
it's
it
on
was
fish.
fish
I think
messing
that
around
that's
with
just
it
kind
was
of a
very
fun
funny.
bit.
Yeah.
But he tries to hide it from his dad at first because he hears the commotion. Then Abby later on tries to convince him to tell his dad what it is, and he's nervous about doing it because now they finally bond it, and it's all this back and forth. And when he shows it to his friends, then Fish messes around with it, and it lights up, and he basically rides it like a surfboard, and it floats him up into the
Yes.
sky.
yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that was
And-
really cool. That I don't know, probably because we just finished Revelation, but that reminded me of the little
He-Man.
discs that they have in He-Man, where they throw it up and then they
Oh,
like
right,
can
right.
stand on it and glide around. Yeah.
Well, and they are able to follow him because he has a glow stick from the karaoke,
Yeah,
which I
yeah.
loved that he had a glow stick in karaoke. And I was going to make a comment about it, and I was like, "Oh, that's fun!" And then it's actually used so they
Yes.
can
Yeah,
track
which
him.
is really cool. That's the type of thing where it's like it doesn't need to matter, but then they can use just the environment. That's things I like. Stuff like that is interesting to me.
Yeah.
Plot devices that you don't realize are plot devices until they're shown that they are. Like, That's cool to me.
So then they all head to the stadium, which I would call it a ballpark, but it says stadium on it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
maybe it's where like they do all this stuff. I don't know. I
There
don't
is
know
a
why
place.
that's a sticking point with me. But then everything goes crazy. Like the wind and the leaves pick up. And Jack, I think it was you who were saying, someone was saying
the
how
wind
they,
animation
yeah, the
was
wind
really
animation.
good.
And so Abby gets mesmerized, which is kind of a trope from, I said Independence Day, but it's really from any
Yes.
alien movie where it's like they get mesmerized by
Look
the
up
light.
and-
The aliens come out and they're these metal. They look like robots because
They're-
we find
yeah.
out that the aliens are inside of the
They're
metal.
like Easter eggs with legs, with long,
Yeah.
spindly legs that like can turn into a bunch of stuff like blades and helicopter rotors and stuff.
Yeah, so they go out to explore, and then all the friends, the group goes inside the ship to try to find fish. And then we see that ball of electricity. What is that called? Or is it just a ball of
I don't know
electricity?
what that's called.
Electricity.
The thing that's
Thing
like
where
you
you
put
your hands on it. We were
and
saying we all
Plasma
had
ball.
one.
Is it called a plasma ball?
Yeah, it's called.
pretty sure,
I think yeah.
Oh
Plasma
no, I'm
something.
gonna look this up after
Plasma
and see if
orb,
I'm
plasma
right.
ball.
Yeah.
something
If
like
you're
that.
if you're our age, literally you went to one of those.
You went to
like,
Spencer's.
A science. Oh, they always had them at like the science museum.
Yeah, they had them there. They had big ones there.
Spencer's the store at
Spencer's,
the
yeah,
mall?
Spencer's the gift store had like the small one that you would have like in your room.
This the mall store Spencer.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that's a very different place now.
Well, I'm sure it is, yeah.
You broke Jack. He was like, huh?
I honestly didn't even know Spencer still existed.
Yeah, it does.
So it still
It
exists.
does
I'll take
Well,
you into
explain.
one.
Well, now it's
Now
just
it's
all
like
like t-shirts with
clothes
like
and stuff now, right?
Oh, now
T-shirts
it's a
and
lot
shot
of
glasses.
weed jokes and
Yeah,
things like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So
So this is when Kirby shows up.
Kirby.
Yeah,
He's the
Jack.
best
I think
character
Jack's
here.
favorite character. And Kirby is a little baby alien, very furry.
they have 3 eyes, but like
They can also
they
show
can
just
hide
one.
them, and then they also like spin
They
around.
can like spin. Yeah, I was gonna say that. That's weird.
Yeah,
like it. I
think
and
it's
3
cool.
legs. 3 legs.
I think it's like 4.
Four legs.
They had like before, but one of my favorite things with the legs is number one, the way that he runs and stuff, and like when he turns, his like legs turn before his body does is really cool. But then also when they do when Chicken Little and him do the handshake thing later, and then he jumps up and does all four of them in the circle, and he's like,
Yeah, that was fun. So then they see Fish, and he's behind something that just shows his skeleton. So at first they think something terrible has happened to Fish. Then they realize he's alive. Runt finds this map of planets, and there are all big X's over every planet, and then Earth is circled as if Earth is next. So they think that the aliens are going around basically taking over.
Classic evil plan music there.
Yes.
And then the way it's like cut to is like, and then it shows it, and it's just like, it's really like, I like the way it like cuts in. It's not like panning or anything. It's like, but it like goes from planet to planet on each beat, and I like that a lot. I think that was cool.
So after they see the map, that's when the aliens, still in the robot suits, chase them around. And this is when Jack had said that you're not a huge fan of the fat guy in a small hole. Because Runt, they all try to go down into a hole, and Runt gets stuck.
Especially the like jumping on top of the person. I don't know why. It just bothers me.
Probably because you're a skinny person and you don't understand the plight that larger people find with small spaces.
What?
Get you stuck in a hole sometimes, see how you feel.
But like, I'm kind of confused on him calling you skinny. That's funny to me. I don't know.
How skinny he is.
He's not skinny.
Are you kidding me?
Stop poking me.
He's like average like size. What are you talking about?
You're both skinny.
I'm not skinny anymore. I got a gut now. I'm like 150. It's annoying.
Youth is wasted on the young.
He's an adult now.
Yeah, I'm 18.
That is true. He is an adult now. So then Fish goes for the aliens. And this is something your mom, Ryan's sister, pointed out, where the metal alien legs are trying to go down the hole, and Fish gets mesmerized. And your sister pointed out that it's because they look like fish hooks, which we all thought was kind of fun, but none of us really caught that. So I thought that was fun.
That got me thinking for like the next like 5 minutes. I was thinking about that, and it was like, I was eventually like, but don't we have to put like bait on fish hooks so that the fish go to the hooks? It's not like they're like, look at that.
Don't think it
spike.
through, buddy.
But if it was shiny, would they go to it if the hook had some sort of reflector?
I just thought it was, I think that's what they were going for, but also like, that character's so aloof and like never takes into like,
and also seems very mesmerized with like, he was immediately drawn to the platform that
he's like, wow.
He got up in the spaceship before everybody else to explore.
He's a cool character, and you can tell he's just very carefree. I like in the beginning when he does like the Empire State Building, and then it's like out of like newspapers. You remember that part where it's like the of the newspapers, and it's like that, and it's like he's throwing these planes around, and it's going around him. He's like, like I love that. Like he's like falling to the ground, all that stuff. It was really.
He's a good comic relief character.
Yes.
I feel like
it's funny because I think I said at the beginning, like, isn't he the coolest character at the school? And I think, or I said the most popular. And it's just, I don't think he's the most popular, but he's definitely the coolest because he has like complete confidence in whatever he does. He's like,
the dodgeball scene where he's just like dancing to
Oh yeah, I forgot that song's in it too. He also, I love at the baseball game, he's painted his face half red and half white, like he's
crushing cans on his head.
Diehard fan.
Great.
So the aliens chase them through the cornfield, and this is where we also see that they can turn into blades and all the things Ryan was talking about earlier.
They can like fly. It's weird.
And so they're trying to get to the school bell to warn everyone, and the blades wind up making crop circles.
Yes.
So we see that for a moment too. And then this is where he is using his creativity with the soda. I think we mentioned that earlier about the soda, the carbonation shoots Chicken Little to the top so he can get to the bell. And right before he rings it, he has the flashback of everybody making fun of him, his dad being embarrassed of him ringing the bell the first time. But then he sees they're going after Abby, they're going after Runt, and so he rings the bell anyway. And we also pick up on something here that the bell hurts the aliens. Whatever the frequency of the bell is, they kind of
it just
get flustered or frustrated.
It doesn't come back.
Well, it comes back with the fire truck.
Yeah.
Runt rings the bell to distract them all.
Oh, you're right. It does.
See? Nice going, Jack.
Unanimous, me and Ryan.
Parker and I must have been called to the principal's office when that scene went down.
You must have been busy chatting it up. So, everybody comes with the bells. He's saying there's aliens here. Nobody can see anything. The ship is at the stadium, so he's getting everyone to go. And then the turkey, what's the mayor's name?
Turkey Lurkey.
Sees
Don
a shiny
Knotts.
penny.
Oh, penny.
Yeah, and distracts everyone. And of course, by the time they get to the stadium, everything's gone.
I hate that it disappeared at the last second.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But like, it's in the air, it's
Very Phineas and
shiny,
Ferb.
it's above the
I know this
fence,
was
and
way
no
before
one
Phineas and
sees
Ferb,
it.
but very Phineas and Ferb.
You would think that people would realize the existence.
You're not
of
talking in the
UFOs. I'm just
microphone.
this is between me and Jack.
Oh.
It's just important that you think people would see these UFOs, but people will not see what they're not ready to believe in, Jack. I'm saying. This
It's like
happens
Bigfoot.
all the time.
Also, the Earth is flat and all.
Do you want to start a conspiracy theories podcast with me, Ryan?
Sure, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not conspiracies. It's going to be called the Truth
It's
Podcast.
facts. It's just facts.
The truth theories.
The truth is out there.
Yes.
Is that X-Files?
X-Files.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the town basically loses it at this point because now they've all been woken up. It's late and he's done it again. And this is when he basically begs his dad to believe him, and his dad doesn't. He says, "I'm sorry, I don't."
so sad.
It's
Which
so
is a really,
sad.
really like touchingly hard moment. Like it's like you really feel in that moment. He's like and you know he wants to. You can see on his face he wants to believe him, and it's just like this moment of like I can't. And he's
Well,
just
yeah,
like,
I feel
yeah.
like his dad's definitely wrong, but they do a good job of making his dad like.
He still feels
relatable.
conflicted.
Yeah,
And he
yeah,
still feels
yeah.
conflicted about how he's feeling, that he doesn't believe him. But yeah, it is a really sad moment. And then we realize that Kirby, the orange little fuzzball alien, was left behind. And he watches the spaceship leaving. And so it cuts to the next day. Everyone's calling his dad. And instead of "you got mail," it's "you've got hate mail." And then your hate mailbox is full.
Did y'all see that was an acorn instead of the apple logo?
No, I didn't.
love
That's
that.
great.
That's funny because that's isn't that a Zootopia bit where it's like a carrot instead of.
Yeah.
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I liked all the attention to detail in this world.
Yes.
I thought they did a
Yes,
really good job with that.
Do you think this takes place in the same universe as Zootopia? This is Okie Oaks is a little
Yeah,
suburb of
like when she
Zootopia.
goes on the bus or the
Sure.
train to go to
Headcanon.
Zootopia, it's like one of the towns on the way.
Yeah.
I think so.
I like that. That's cool.
So Abby again tries to push him to talk to his dad at this point, and this is when Kirby comes to Chicken Little and Fish winds up talking to it. So they wind up realizing what happened. He got left behind. You had a really grossed out moment about the handkerchief.
Oh,
I
he blows
missed
his
it.
nose
That
on
was
the handkerchief, and then Chicken Little does like a yo-yo bit with the snot. And
okay.
for some reason, like, ugh, there were two parts in this movie that really got me. We'll get to the second one here in a second because I think it made Parker laugh a lot.
Oh, we haven't gotten to this
We haven't
next
got
part
to
yet?
the
Okay.
next part. The first part was the thing that had a real visceral.
Oh, with the
gross out
handkerchief.
moment. The second one.
So-
we'll get to a bit.
So now the sky shatters. They realize Chicken Little is right. It cracks. It kind of opens up. The spaceships come down and an attack starts. And Chicken Little tries to tell everyone this is a rescue mission. Like, if we just return Kirby to them, like, everything will be okay. And of course, his dad doesn't, no one believes him.
Right.
And so it's him trying to get this. And then REM's The End of the World comes in for
Really
a
good
montage.
needle
That was a great.
Yeah.
It's a really great sound. I feel like the actual songs playing over stuff is a great soundtrack, but like when the characters are singing stuff, it's not. Like, if that makes sense, I don't know.
Oh,
So-
you didn't like the karaoke songs?
No,
Oh, boo. No, that's okay.
I'm getting slandered.
Yeah, rightfully so.
You're entitled to your opinion, Jack, and I hear you.
Except for when it's bad.
So then Foxy Loxy gets blasted
This is the
and
other part
disintegrates.
that I-
This
And
was the best.
Ryan lost it, and I was excited because she was so mean. I was fine that she
I
was,
was like, oh my god, did
obliterated.
they kill Foxy Loxy? And Tara went like, good.
She
Good.
deserved it.
Which is a great, that was really well done the way that, because later you find out, obviously,
It's a long time before they zap anybody else, so I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this might really, they might
yeah,
really-
which
so
they
funny
do
Foxy
that really well
Loxy
because,
just
and then
died.
also, if you listen to it, the music and the sound effects there, it happens, and it's, and then she's gone, and then it's just silence for a second, because
Yeah.
it lets you be like, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the score.
Uh,
Sorry.
Did you see
peaked.
Goosey Lucy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just
Doing
like,
What?
Oh, whoa.
But then, yeah, as Ryan mentioned, the mayor gets zapped, some other people get zapped, and then you realize later on we see them all.
When they started zapping more people, I went, surely this isn't like a Disney movie with a massacre.
Yeah. So plan A is trying to return Kirby. That doesn't work. So they go to plan B, which is to get him to the spaceship. And so then that's all happening. And then plan C happens, which is everybody in the fire truck.
Yes.
Trying to get up there. And then plan D is going up the stairs because the elevator's
Which is
out.
weird because I feel like Plan C and Plan D are like
The same.
the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's
But
very inconsistent.
But in here, you had mentioned something about quick eye movements, so I wrote it down.
I like, there was a thing with it being CG where I think they're allowed to do like a lot more subtle things with the face. And one of the things they do is when they do like a quick eye movement to the left and back, they do it a lot in CG animation. But I don't know, I just find that.
It was Buck Cluck, but when did he? I can't remember when he did it though.
He was explaining like, we got to get to the bell tower. And I think Buck was like, you know, again, he's overly trying to be supportive to make up for how he's been, but
Yeah, he's trying to be
and we
like...
completely skipped over them. Like,
Oh, we did skip over
they
them
do have
bonding.
that-
Yeah.
They finally bonded. I really like that scene because it was just all of a sudden, because Abby goes, we got to deal with this right now. And he goes, you never support me. Like, you're never there for me. And I was like, wow. And they do a really good job of it because I also think, like where I was saying, where Buck is likable, but he was wrong. There's no, like, back and forth. Like, he doesn't, his speech of, like, what did he say? He's like, you don't have to earn my love or my whatever.
something like that, yeah.
And,
Yeah.
And that was, I thought, really, really good. It was a really smart, modern, and you know,
He says, I love you. He basically says, I love you, and I'm sorry that I ever made you feel like that was something you had to earn.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
a
and
really
he says,
great
"I love you
line
no
and
matter
a really
what."
great concept that is, it's something that happens in real life, is you feel like people that, you feel like you have to not earn someone's love, but you have to prove yourself to people all the time. That's something that so many people deal with, and it's a really great thing to have that in a movie and have that in a character and show
Yeah.
that.
Because I think the character of Buck doesn't seem stupid. And I think having him say it that way, which I thought was a really smart way of saying it, makes it feel his realization other than just like, because I feel like in a much lesser thought out movie, it could have just been like, the dad is a jerk and then he suddenly realizes he's being a jerk.
It's three-dimensional characters.
Yes,
One
literally.
of my favorite examples of that, which is not related to this movie at all, but it's like some like Flash Thompson in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I really like when after Uncle Ben dies and he comes up and he's like he's like, I'm sorry. Like that's the type of thing that smart
Yeah,
writers
he's
will
not
make
just
it
a
feels like
villain.
that. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not just like, oh, he's not just a jerk. He's just like, I know I'm sitting weird. Jack just gave me a look of like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. But like it's like that type of thing where we see Buck and we know that he doesn't understand that what he's doing is necessarily wrong. He can see that it might hurt his kid, but he also doesn't know how else to respond to these situations. He doesn't want to just avidly support his kid and have it get both of them in more of a like situation. So it's hard for him to respond to things like that. And then he realizes that he should have like handled things differently, and he accepts it and he tries to make up for it, which is how real relationships face problems and real
Yeah.
relationships solve problems. Is you don't just go, oh, that's bad. You just like you work towards fixing things. And
Well, and you own up to it.
Yeah.
It's easier to like Buck Cluck as someone you relate to who then like has a realization as opposed to a villain who has a face turn like all of a sudden halfway through. Like,
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to like this guy now.
And
Well,
and that's another thing that they show with that story of Chicken Little with his dad is communication is so key in life, and that's something that you see sometimes, but you don't see as often as you should in like relationships and in media. It's like that's such a key thing, and I think that was really one of the things that honestly I think one of the reasons that Tara ended up liking Abby so much is because she's more grounded in reality and knows what you need to do to fix a relationship and to fix things like this. And she's like, we need to have an intervention. You guys just need to talk. And then the second they did, everything was like, oh. And they kind of realized, both of them realized what's going on, and it changes. And it's a really great message within that story and a really great moment with those characters.
And it is similar to we mentioned Mitchell and the Machines earlier, but kind of similar to
Yeah.
the dad and the daughter relationship
Yes.
in that film, where they kind of eventually come together. You know, they're on different sides of things. This is also when Chicken Little, he gets the confidence to kiss Abby and says, "I've always found you extremely attractive," which I enjoyed that moment. But then we did talk about how now Abby is kind of useless for the rest of the film, which is
So
sad
bad.
because she was so confident up to this point. So
I do like that little with her foot. She does a ding.
Yeah,
and it
she,
goes
like,
up in
puts
the
her
air.
foot
It's
out,
great,
yeah.
That's great.
So they wind up, Chicken Little and his dad and Kirby all get zapped up together. And they try to give him back, and the aliens think that they want to attack. And then the kid winds up communicating to the aliens, no, they're telling the truth. They weren't trying to attack you.
And the mom and dad are Fred Willard and Catherine O'Hara. So.
Yeah, and it's a fun little, they don't have huge parts, but at
Right.
the end, it's fun to hear their voices. And so Parker picked up on the dad is red, the mom is yellow, and
So the
Kirby
kid's
is orange,
orange.
which is fun. So
Which
then...
isn't something that's like necessarily. It's not even like important to the story or
Which is
anything like that.
fun.
It's just like one of those things, like with all like the like world setting with that we talked about with like the chicken coop house and stuff like that. It's just things like that, like little details that aren't necessarily vital, but it's just adds that little bit more of flavor to the story.
Yeah, all the little details. So they wind up putting the town back, anything that got zapped, basically, they like put back. And then we hear Kronk's voice. So he was in Home on the Range,
Yes.
and now he's in this as the police alien. So it's kind of fun that they've used his
And
voice.
he's like in the parks. Like they suddenly love him at Disney.
Yeah,
all
well,
this
he's
time.
got such a specific voice. I
Yes.
feel like it's good for certain things. And then when they look at their watch to say the time is gone, it's the famous Mickey watch, but Mickey has 3 eyes.
Yes.
Oh, that looks
I love that.
slightly terrifying.
It's
but
no, it's horrifying, but that's why it's so cool. And then I love the cop alien. He's just like that deep voice with like
With
the
the
three,
crew
the,
cut,
the-
too.
and the three,
The three
sunglasses, and
sunglasses.
it's like
Yeah.
the like is it Morpheus sunglasses? Like it's
Yes.
it's great, yeah. That's I'm like, is that what I'm thinking of? Yeah, and it's like that, but they're like silver. I love that
The
character.
mirror glasses.
Yes,
And
yeah.
then
It's so cool.
Kind of like the aviators a little bit.
Loxy now has been like
Brainwashed.
completely brainwashed, and
It turns into Bo Peep.
And you, Jack, did you say
design.
you like her better this way?
I like her better this way. I just think she looks funny.
You thought she looked like John Travolta from Hairspray.
I thought she does look like John Travolta from Hairspray. I'm telling you.
I like that Foxy Loxley comes back. I like that she's nicer. Runt kind of falls for her because she's singing the Lollipop song from like the 50s or the 60s, right?
The only thing
She's
I do
kind of
have
dressed
with
like a
that-
sock hop.
Yes.
Yeah.
The only thing I do have to say, I kind of like that, but at the same time, it's also a matter of like, I also feel it also makes me a little uncomfortable about the way that it's just like, oh, she's like brainwashed, because it's not like
I mean, yeah.
it's not because it's not even like she comes back and she's just like, oh, now she's nice and kind of kind and a good soul. She just comes back and she's like, la 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 la.
I feel like her
Like, it's like,
abduction should have changed her,
what-
right?
Yes.
Like
yeah.
what they do there is the same thing that they did with Abby after the kiss, except she doesn't ever go back. It's just like
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
now. And
that's
it's like,
true.
Even if she was a bad person,
It's better than the child murder that we thought was happening.
No, that would have been way
when
better.
she gets zapped and I was okay with it.
So great to keep her dead.
I want a James Gunn remake of Chicken
No,
Little where they
please
just
stop,
kill
please
everyone.
stop.
So you said we find out that the aliens, they come for the acorns every year, and you called them leafers.
They're leafers.
Yeah, they basically come for the acorns once a year and then they leave. And so now we fast forward a year later, and it's Chicken Little, the true story, in the movie
So
theater.
what happened to the first movie? Did they just stop production?
I guess they must have.
I
Yeah.
guess. The stupid little chicken that freaked out or whatever.
Yeah,
it's
whatever it's
called.
called. Yeah, so
Crazy little chicken.
Yeah.
that's it. So then they play Ain't No Mountain High Enough during the attack, and
Which is a bad, it's a bad cover of it.
I would agree with that, yes. But we get to see all the characters in, like, Action Hero.
Right, and
Adam.
Ugly Duckling is like gorgeous.
Yes,
like,
yeah, they've
and it's
changed
Adam
everyone.
West.
And Runt is like a full boar. And like,
Yeah,
it's
and
great.
Chicken Little is giant with these big, broad
well, when
shoulders.
they show
And most importantly, Fish Out of Water has this like super high tech like thing on his head. It's awesome.
Right. I will say I do like the joke when it's like characters watching a fictionalist version of what's happening, like in the Austin Powers movies.
Yeah.
And the Muppet movie, I think, does it somewhat.
I like stuff like that in comics where they reference like in X-Men comics where they'll have, or no, it's the X-Men, it's Logan that I'm thinking about. Logan, and they have the X-Men comic, and that's like one of the like it's stuff like that. That's really cool to me. It's like whoa.
Get back here.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, and the most important fact about the Chicken Little movie inside of the Chicken Little movie is that the epic action hero Chicken Little is voiced by Adam West, and I just think that's the best thing
he goes by
ever.
Ace.
Ace.
Which is his dad's nickname.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we get the kind of at the end they're singing and they're doing "Don't Go Breaking My Heart."
Yeah, everybody cheers for Chicken Little at the end in the theater, and everybody's kind of excited and happy, and then it kind of goes into the credits, with the whole cast singing, and so that's kind of the end.
So we don't really have a villain to rank in this movie,
Unless you consider Foxy Loxy.
Society.
yes.
Or Society, yes.
But we do have our questions we ask every episode. So how was the princess? In this case, we're going to call the princess Chicken Little.
Chicken Little is the princess.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Because
So
we're tagonists.
That's how we define it.
So that's, so it throws people, when we
So-
say that, but...
I liked him. I'm not the biggest Zach Braff guy, but I thought he was voiced very well. I liked the character. I liked how small he was. Mm-hmm. Like, and how they played on that.
Yeah. What did you guys think?
I love Zach Braff's voice acting. I love the ingenuity of Chicken Little, like the stuff with the soda, the grabbing onto the car antenna and flicking to save Kirby, stuff like that.
One of my favorite ones is at the end when they're going up the tower and he licks the thing on his head.
So weird.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
he slaps his way up.
It's like those sticky hands.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
That you throw and they go down the wall slowly, or the sticky hands.
Yeah.
I agree with all three of you. I really like Chicken Little a lot. It was knowing all the details that they put into his feathers and his look. It was really fun to kind of watch that throughout. And just the perspective of him being so small when he's in the giant baseball helmet and holding the baseball bat, and all the different ways that they have him move and use him, I thought was really cool.
How was the prince, who in this case I think is Abby?
You know my opinion on
I think
Abby.
we've all
I
said
love
nice
Abby.
things about Abby.
Abby's awesome.
Sidekick and henchman.
Fish
and
out
Run.
of water.
Yeah.
Fish and Run.
Okay.
Runt is a bit of a
Runt's fine.
Runt's okay.
Runt's kind of an annoying character at times because it's like he's there as an attempted comic relief, and all they do is make kind of fat jokes, and it's like, why?
I also
Fish out of
wanna
water would have
see-
been.
Well, sorry. I also was gonna say I wanted to see the rest of his family that he's the runt of, because he's huge.
We see his mom at one point
Do we?
when
And she's, like,
and
twice
she's
his
bigger
size.
than him.
Oh, I must have missed
Because
it.
when
I was in the
Chicken
principal's
Little
office.
when Chicken Little cries the sky is falling a second time, she pulls Runt away and is like, you really shouldn't get involved.
Oh, okay.
So so there's that
she's,
moment. She is
And then
fairly
she threatens
large.
his Barbara Streisand collection,
Yes.
which is great.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I just missed that.
Yeah, I like Fish Out of
didn't
Water.
absorb.
As far
I
as
think Fish
sidekicks
Out of Water.
go.
Fish Out of Water is a great character. Runt's. I mean, he's an okay character. It's just his gags are always kind of cliche and it's either playing off of the fact that he has anxiety or playing off of the fact that he's overweight. And it's one of the things that was so cool about Fish Out of Water is he's actually he's more clever jokes, you know what I mean? Because you can't hear him talk, so you got to do things with that that's just funny, and it's I don't know, whatever.
Does tell you something about the dialogue and the writing of the movie that my three favorite jokes or characters are the non-talking ones.
Mm-hmm.
So Fish Out of Water, Kirby, and then the Secret Service dogs, which we haven't talked about, but the ones that are showing flags
Oh,
sitting
yeah.
there, that's my favorite joke.
Yeah.
I think Runt was well performed. I don't know that
He was well performed. He was
I like
kind
Steve
of
Zahn a
poorly
lot.
written, but
Yeah.
he was well done. One of the things I think of when I think of kind of the cliches that Runt portrays is when they're going down the hill and he's bouncing and he's just burping and farting the entire way, and it's just oh my god, are you serious right now? And again, I say all this with a pure. I love this movie. It's nostalgia. It's a dumb thing to do, and it was so Disney at the time. It was so like
It was
not even
Shrek.
Disney, it was Disney trying to imitate Shrek with like the fart jokes and stuff, and it's like, but like, why?
Favorite musical number? Mine was Into the World.
Mine was the Bare Naked Ladies because it was for
Yeah,
the movie.
the beginning. I also just love, as I was already saying, like I love the perspective of that, the way that's. I would say shot, but it's animation. But I'll still say shot anyways. Like the way it's shot with like the camera angles and stuff is really, really well done, and like the movements and stuff is very like fluid and going down with him and being like, oh, like look at this. This is how he travels. Like really puts you in that character's feet and makes you really feel for him.
What do you think, Jack?
Bare Naked Ladies is the better song, but Into the World fits better into the movie, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. I would agree with that as well.
Here's our questions about it holding up. Does it hold up for female character agency? I think we talked about the two women characters that kind of like at the end got.
I love that
sidelined
Foxy
in a weird
Loxy
way.
was the baseball star. I like that she was a
Yeah.
woman
That was
baseball
good.
star. That was cool. We thought Abby was really strong, but yeah, in the end, they kind of did them both a disservice in their strong
So I
character
think it's
traits.
kind of both because like up until that third act, it very much is like strong character or strong female characters, and then they like have those turning points and it's just like nope, never mind. But like I would say kind of like a balance between the two because I still think it is important to look at the fact that they did have those strong female characters, even if they did get flustered by weird stuff at some point.
Yeah.
Drinking and smoking, there's none of that in this movie. Guns and firearms, none of that in
Nothing.
this movie. Ethnic representation, they are all animals, but it is a pretty white cast.
Yeah, as far as the
It's
voice
a very
actors
white
go.
cast,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like, something they could have done is hire a little bit more diversity. And finally, our big question, did you like it? Would you like to have a nice clamshell edition up on your shelf, or do you lock it away in the Disney vault forever?
Clamshell.
Sadly, we already own it.
I can't. It's in one of those two drawers.
Don't
at the
say
bottom.
sadly.
It's not
Why
I'm
sadly.
sticking with sadly.
Oh, okay. So you wouldn't own it yourself.
I wouldn't. Oh, I'd like to rewatch it eventually, but I would not like to buy it.
So it's being locked away forever in the vault.
See, I have a drawer.
No, you
I would
don't have a
say-
drawer.
I have a drawer
There is
because a
two
vault
choices.
is too intense. A vault is Song of the South. A vault is the Pete's Dragon movie,
Terrible.
Which one? Peach Dragon.
the original one.
What?
Yeah, guys, don't listen to that episode if you love the original Pete's Dragon.
Well,
'cause
that's also
I am
we
not a
watched
fan
when
of
we were
it.
really little with my dad who loved it as a
But
kid.
yeah,
it's
so
kind
that's
of-
different.
It's again like a
I apologize to all those who have nostalgia to Pete's Dragon in that episode.
I would have it in a clamshell edition on my shelf so that
You
if my
would?
nephew came over and wanted to watch it,
No.
we'd have it available.
Yeah,
That's very
I would
sweet.
say the same thing. I have it literally. It's like in the drawer over there, and I will not say sadly because it is a masterpiece of film.
I think that's very sweet, Ryan. I thought you were going to put it in the vault, so that's very sweet.
No.
It's another one of the things where it's like, even if you guys watched some from when you were little, like you still like it's still important to you, even if you rewatch it and you're like, oh, this is not as good as I remember it being, but it's still important. Like my dad loved the Amazing Spider-Man or Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends when he was little,
yeah.
and then when you rewatch that, it's like the first episode's like Green Goblin's gonna poison the city's water, and it's like what?
Ew.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
it's like, but it's still like a really like nostalgic show. Like it's yeah.
I just don't have that nostalgia factor for Chicken Little. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I'm.
You know what you do have
completely-
nostalgia factor for, and that's Kung Fu Panda because I made you
Yeah.
watch
Because you burned it
I
into their
love Kung Fu
brains.
Panda. It's so great.
it.
If y'all ever go to like Disney like XD shows or anything like that, which I bet you probably won't, but like if you ever did, that's the stuff that Jack and I have the most nostalgia on, like Lemonade Mouth, like
Bad.
Lemonade Mouth.
I know
Lemonade
none
Mouth.
of
I
that.
love
I've
Lemonade.
never heard of that.
You've never heard of
No.
Lemonade Mouth? Ooh.
Usually I've heard of stuff you guys
Lemonade
like to
Mouth
watch,
and
but
Teen Beach
Teen Beach
Movie
Movie.
were the two that we
Teen
were.
Beach Movie.
Oh, you've never heard of
Are
either?
they
No.
shows or are
They're
they movies?
they're
They're
movies.
Disney
They're
original movies.
Disney original movies
Are
from
there
like Disney
live
XD.
action?
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
that's what it is. Okay, I don't know a lot of the.
Yeah, they're both, and I actually think both those movies still kind of hold up. Like I know you look at them.
Teen
and you
Beach
can't.
Movie 2 doesn't. Teen Beach Movie 1 probably
It does. That's a 5-star. It's a 5-star masterpiece of cinema.
Well, guys, Lemonade Mouth and Teen Beach Movie coming to an episode someday.
You heard it here first from the youth.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for doing our podcast. We ask our guests at the end of every episode to, if they want to plug something, whether it be a personal project, some piece of media you've enjoyed, which in this case could be Teen Beach Movie,
or a video game, or whatever.
just a sentiment you want to put out there in the world, please feel free to plug away.
I want to plug the bad
2066. I love that year.
2006-ish Chicken Little video game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh no.
Is it rough?
It's
really bad.
I don't know. I looked up Chicken Little earlier today to look at the cast for this, and I saw the video game. I'm like, I've never heard of this in my entire life.
I have seen videos
This must
of it,
be
and
awful.
it was really interesting.
I'm about to say, this is the year when I probably worked for the company that put that game out. Well, no, they had the Pixar movies. I don't know if they had the Disney license, but...
So they did A Bug's Life and stuff like that?
WALL-E. I remember WALL-E.
The WALL-E game was great.
They let us play test that one before it came out.
Oh, interesting.
That's a great game. And then the Toy Story game was great too.
I remember it was mostly just driving around and moving things around.
Remember the Toy Story one where you can go and mine in the places and stuff. We're right off of He-Man Revelation, which is what I would say go on.
Oh, okay.
Those are very different. I love how I watch y'all, and most people plug charities or they're in.
Well, most people are adults and boring, so if you guys want to plug video
That's
games
fine.
and shows.
No, people plug books and different media shows and things, so you're not far off.
Thank you guys so much, and thank you guys for listening. We are our next film will be the Meet the Robinsons. Is that what it's called?
I think that's the name of it.
It's a great movie.
So listen for that. Always remember to rate, review, subscribe, and tell a friend about our podcast. But until next time, we'll see you around.
All right, take care, listeners. Thanks for listening to Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries.
If you want to tell us your favorite Disney villain and why it's guest on, send us an email at trprincessdiaries@gmail.com.
Or you can send a tweet about how great Maleficent is to @TRPDiaries.
Check out our Facebook group by searching for Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries.
Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Overcast, and many more.
Wherever you hear us, please be our knight in shining armor and give us a 5-star review.
Thanks again, and until next time, remember to always live happily ever after.